there are 7 pretty simple steps that take a house from this to this. And today you're not just going to learn all 7, you're also going to understand which one is the most difficult and which one is the most expensive. Trust me, you're not going to expect it. Hello everyone, I hope we're all feeling healthy. My name is Ben and I'm an assistant site manager working on a £22 million construction site based in the UK. And today I'm going to show you what you've never seen before. Let's get into it. Here's a snapshot of the same foundation all progressed at different levels. And in the next 3 minutes, you're going to understand each step of the process. First thing you want to do is excavate 900 mil below floor level to install the water feed. This is the lowest service into the house as you want it to stay warm in the winter time so it doesn't freeze. You can then go up 150 mil and install the drainage. Once that's done, you can go up to the level which the foundation is going to be and you can pour the blind in and the DPM. So then after we've laid the blue DPM, the next thing on the agenda is to lay what's called buildite. Now, the detail for the foundations will change depending on what housing job you're on. But on this job, we install a thing called buildite, which is almost a form of insulation. So we lay this buildite down and this will become the formwork for the concrete, as you'll see in a few steps time. But right now we've got all the buildite behind me. So we'll set all this out correctly, all the groundworkers will, all ready for part of the foundation to be poured a little bit on later. At this point, guys, we're pretty much there. The buildite insulation goes down, acting as the formwork for the concrete pour. Next up, we have the steel fixers come along and put reinforcement down already for the concrete pour, and then eventually the concrete pour happens. But believe it or not, even after the concrete pour, there is one more step to do before we can class the foundation as complete. We put on this black jack, and then after we lay this black jack, we'll lay a black tanking on top. And so the detail will look like this water protection, the DPM, which is below the foundation, will lap over and across, and then we'll have the tanking then start over this and then come up and across to lap it in, and so that any rain that comes in can't get into the foundation and below the foundation, creating damp issues. So that's the next part of developing a foundation for modern houses in the UK. Now this will take around 21 grand and it will also take around 1 to 2 weeks. So you can already start to understand the speed that we're moving on this construction site and how long it takes to build a typical foundation here in the UK. Now you see this spreadsheet right here. This shows you step by step how much each part of the process for the foundation costs, but not just for the foundation. This spreadsheet includes the whole 12 steps that we're going to talk about today. To give you guys as much as possible, I've literally just left this in the description below, free to use. So use it however you want to. All that I ask is that you like the video and subscribe if you are enjoying it. Now next up, let's talk about the scaffolding. So then at this step then, what you have after the foundation is poured is the scaffolding that loops around the foundation for the steel fixers next up in line. So the scaffolding obviously is only temporary for obviously the steel fixers, then the bricklayers and the roofers. But for now, you just put the foundation in and then you can set the scaffolding going all the way around, all ready for the steel fixers next in line. And this is that in action. So the scaffolding has all been set up, and as you can see, it looks a bit complicated looking at it from face value, so let's go inside. But you will be able to see that the scaffolding has helped the steel fixers put the steel frame in place, just like so. So we have this thing which is called a crash deck. So essentially the steel fixers can stand on top of this to work on the floor above, and basically you turn on a permit for them to allow them to do that, so they can set the steel frame. And yeah, you can see the outline of the house is already starting to take some shape. So it's pretty outrageous how much scaffolding it is. We're looking at 26 grand throughout the whole of the process of building a house from start to finish, which is a lot of money. And also then the steel frame is approximately 22 grand. Considering that is the ground floor and the first floor, I'd say that's pretty reasonable. Now next up in this process, we have getting the house watertight. Now this is the most exciting part of the project and you're gonna see why now. So I like to break this up into 3 main themes: the walls, the openings, and the roof. I think you're going to be pretty surprised how the roof is installed, but starting off with the walls, very basically you get Glasrock X board, which is an external waterproof weatherboard which fixes onto the steel frame. Now this will act as the starting wall for the house. Next up then, you put in the windows and doors whenever there's an opening. Starting off with the opening within the house, now we get the window fitter to make sure it's all level and plumb before literally using the frame of the window and putting it into place. So you fit the brackets to the window and then you fit it to the metal frame then, on the inside. Okay. Next thing on the job is to use the EDPM and literally lay the self-adhesive water protection onto the weather protection board. Now this will make it watertight, and we do this all the way around the frame of the window. It's a very key way to keep water out and to make the building watertight. And then finally, we find the glass pane that is the same size of the window frame that we just fitted, and we take it and we basically just fit it into the window frame just like so. The next thing is to get a tiny hammer, also known as a nylon hammer, I believe, and then to hit the UPVC frame into place, trapping the glazing from either end. And that is pretty much how a window is installed on a new build in the UK. And then to install a roof onto a new build, a crane comes to site with roof trusses prefabricated in a factory, all ready to be lifted by a high-up crane and fixed down by 2 carpenters. As you can see, this is what it looks like with no tiles on it. It's pretty overwhelming, to be honest, but when you break it down, it's kind of simple. You have the rafters that get pre-made off-site and then brought up by a crane. A high-up is the scientific name for it. Then you have the carpenters then bracing it all together. So you've got the rafter, the truss, and then you have a node point, which is kind of like that point there, where the weight is evenly distributed. And then we'll have the carpenters to brace it all together, connect it all together. You see the bracing, everywhere. And once we're at this stage, the roofers can then come onto site and install the felt, batten, and finally the tiling. This is how it's done. Have you ever wondered how long it takes to put tiles on a new build of a roof in the UK? Well, first of all, after the roof trusses go on, which is the wooden stuff on the previous slide, we put on a green felt and the red battens, which you can see the tilers walk up right now. The next step for the tilers today then is to continue on. So all of this has been complete, so they've nailed it into the top. Then you overlap the nail so it's hidden, so there's like a nail in like there for this tile. We've put in the valley for the water, so it'll run down into the valley, into the gutter, and then straight down into a drain. And then the tilers have set all of this out already to be laid for the next following days, so they are flying ahead, which is great to see. It took 2 operatives then to take the roof from what you see right now being half complete with the tiling, to do all of the cuts, to install the valleys, and even to install the edges. It took them around 5 days, which means that altogether the felt, the battens, and the tiling took 7 days to complete, which ain't bad. And that is the tiling on this house complete. We've got the tiling, we've got the solar panels, we've got the ventilation pipe, we've got the cappings on the top. It is looking absolutely spectacular. I was in college a few years ago, and a video like this would have really helped me. So I really hope this video is helping you guys as much as it would have helped me a few years ago. So looking at what we have just done, we've made the building watertight and it's come up to 26.5 grand. So we have already spent 78 grand, and now we're going to add another 26 grand to this total, taking us just above the 100 grand mark. Now at this point the building is watertight, which means we can start putting in the insulation, cables, mechanical fixings. We can start adding plasterboard as well. We can start turning this into actually looking like a house, and it's probably one of the best parts of the process. At this point of the job, we can start first fixing the inside of the houses. So that means then cabling for lights, we can start fitting in place, mechanical ventilation and ductwork, above the roof we can start fitting, and also the plasterboard before we start backboarding can be done. Patches in here as well to fix sockets too. All of this is happening on the first fix inside the house once the roof is fitted and the windows are on. And before you know it, you start seeing progress on these houses like that. It goes by so quickly. So yeah, 19 grand later and approximately 2.5 weeks, and this is actually starting to look like a house, a place that you can live in. But simultaneously, whilst this was all going on, we've also got the bricklayers. This is exactly what they do to complete the works. I hope you find this useful. So then next up on the outside, we have the guys putting on the bricks just here. So first of all, we put on a breather membrane, and then after that we'll be able to put in the insulation, the brick channels, and then from that we can put brick ties. So the brick ties will come out of the brick channels, which then gets connected to the brick wall there. You can just see within the cavity there's a brick tie there. So this will come all the way across and basically wrap around the whole of this house and all other houses on site. And then for openings, we also have fire barriers, which are these coloured insulation things, so that if there was a fire in this compartment, it wouldn't be able to spread through the cavity that way, and if there was a fire there, it wouldn't be able to spread through the cavity that way. So basically it chops the cavity up into sections to compartmentate the fire, basically. Ladies and gentlemen, it didn't take very long, but we are creeping up to the final things that we need to do before we can say this house is fully finished and complete. We have just spent 9 grand and spent 2 to 3 weeks doing the brickwork, so externally the house is pretty much solid. Before we fit in all the furniture and we do the final touches here and there, there's a few vital things that we have to go through. Let me show you. After all the insulation has been put in, now the next part of the job is to bring all the plasterboard into the houses, and then we can start backboarding, what's called backboarding. So we've got plasterboard on one side, now we're going to put it on the other side and backboard it onto the sides along all of here to create almost like the finished wall, and then we can put the sockets in, we can paint it, and we can make it start to look like a proper house, which is great. As you can see, there's a lot of insulation in these new builds, and it's necessary and it's very hard to install as well. So the insulation gets fitted, then we can put the VCL on the external walls just to allow the building to breathe. We can then put on the plasterboard, and then finally we can tape and joint it, all ready for the mist coat, the painters and the floor layers. At the same time, you'll start to see toilets go on, worktops be fitted and second fixed, as well as main finishes like light switches and radiators. And then finally you can start to see everything coming together. The flooring with the worktops, with the walls being painted. You can then start fitting the furniture and the second fix lighting, finishing it all off and making the house look like a place to live in. Honestly, man, it's the best part about being a site manager, is seeing everything from start to finish and having that fulfillment at the end where you just look at a house and you go, you know, we done this. It feels good. It feels really good. Finally, coming on to the very last step, the second fix. Everything to do from the carpentry, the kitchen, the floor finishes, the tiling, the mechanical wiring, everything second fix comes up to 10.5 grand, a little bit less than 10.5 grand. So if I go back to the massive Excel spreadsheet that I made, this is in the link in the description below. So please, if you are interested and have a look, feel free to take it for yourself and take everything that you want from it. Just all I ask from you is that you subscribe and you like on the video. So yeah, altogether, looking at a 3-bedroom 4-person house, you are approximately costing £143,000. Now, a little bit later, I'm going to be uploading a video as to what exactly you get in this house. How big is the kitchen? How big is the dining room? How big is the bedrooms? You're going to see it all. Make sure you stay tuned for that. But for now, that's it from me. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.